Thank you, Mr. Chair. Dr. Schuckers, in your testimony, you mentioned a case where a woman from South Korea used a special tape on her fingers to spoof or fool a fingerprint recognition system at a Japanese airport. I can also imagine a scenario where someone else uses a photo or video to convince a camera that they are indeed the person associated with an access card. As I understand it, research into these vulnerabilities is termed liveness detection. Can you please describe how the research community is attempting to detect false or fake biometric traits, and how can we assure someone is who they claim to be when a biometric system is unattended?
Great, thank you. This is some research that I'm doing in my laboratory and also being done at the Center for Identification Technology Research. So essentially, we talked about what you know and what you have, and that biometrics is what you are, this kind of other dimension. But as all these other security mechanisms, it has vulnerabilities. And this is one of the vulnerabilities we need to be aware of. What we have to understand is if we're utilizing biometric in an application, there is a purpose for recognizing someone's identity in that application. And so does the biometric go towards improving the security that we need with the caveats that we talk about? So we need to not throw the baby out with the bathwater, essentially. I believe that the biometric information can be very useful for some applications because it's complementary to the other ways we identify people. That being said, we know it's a vulnerability, therefore we need to do research in that vulnerability. And that's one of the things we do in our laboratory. What we're interested in is I have a fake finger here if anybody wants to see it afterwards. We're interested in not faking, but what we're interested in is building those technologies that make it difficult for people to fake the biometric. The word liveness is about recognizing that that biometric was measured at that time. So even if your face is not secret, knowing that I just took a picture of your face and that you're physically there at that time, that tells you that it's not a fake biometric. So that's the kind of research we need to do is to build those. You asked about what technologies are in place. There are software methods that can recognize when someone's faking a biometric. There are hardware methods, things that use light to recognize a finger, for example, as a real finger. And so those are the things that we need to continue to research and put in place.
Dr. Romine, what is NIST doing? What are their efforts in liveness detecting?
Well, I'm pleased to say that one of the efforts that NIST undertook was to provide a grant to Dr. Schuckers to do research in this area.
That's great.
So, thank you very much.
Great. You're quite welcome.
That's great.
We're also engaging, NIST is not currently conducting internally in our intramural program liveness detection research. Although we understand, as Dr. Schuckers mentioned, this is a vulnerability that we need to pay attention to. We are engaging the international community in the standards arena around trying to develop standards for this kind of liveness detection or anti-spoofing. So that's the extent of our current activities, but we were pleased to be able to provide support to a top scientist.
Well, thank you. Dr. Romine, as you know, almost everyone has a smartphone. They have gone from devices used to call friends and family to being used to purchase coffee at Starbucks or deposit checks, which raises privacy and security concerns. In your testimony, you discussed several challenges, including compression and limited bandwidth communication channels that need to be addressed before biometrics can be fully implemented on mobile devices. Can you please speak to what you're doing at NIST to help address the use of mobile devices and privacy and security concerns?
Certainly. The use of biometrics is a very context-dependent thing, and the idea of accepting a certain vulnerability with the benefit that you accrue for using the biometric is sort of an individual choice. But one of the things that I would say that's very important is the idea of ensuring encryption is done whenever biometric data, or indeed any personally identifiable information, is transmitted through mobile devices. I think without using that kind of encryption or some other privacy-preserving technology, I think the vulnerability is considerably larger.
Give you back the balance of my time.